Good afternoon to you. Mark out of HurricaneTrack.com here. Hurricane Outlook and Discussion Time. It is Thursday, the 2nd day of September 2021. Where am I now? I am in Auburn, Alabama, in case you were wondering. On my way home now, finally, from the Ida field mission. Picked up all the equipment that we possibly could. There are still a couple of camera boxes that we will work out who can get those for us. Right now, there's other problems. Our camera boxes are not important in comparison to what people are going through down there. We know where 2 out of the 3 are that we could not retrieve, and we will get them soon enough, and I will show you some more video from those as we move forward. I showed the video just to let you know our patrons, our supporters who are funding this, they have access to the detailed video and the longer explanations of the video first, and then I gradually release that to YouTube and social media in longer and longer clips. And I'll show you something at the end as to where we compile all of this video, a very exciting project, and I'll show you that towards the end to give you something that you can watch. In case you don't know about this, we'll talk about that at the end of today's discussion. So let's first just take a look at climatology real quick, where we have come from and where we are going. So this is the first part of the hurricane season, June 1st through the 10th. Very scant development areas. I think that's the word I'm looking for. Just not a lot of development. And most of the eastern Atlantic, the tropical Atlantic, pretty much void of any development when we get to, in that first week of June. Now let's skip ahead all the way to September. What about the first 10 days of September? First week, first 10 days, whatever. A much different story. So why do we go from this to this? What happens in between? The biggest thing is that the sea surface temperatures take time to warm up. Just like when you turn on the eye of a stove and you put some water on there, the water doesn't instantly boil. It takes a while. The energy has to be stored. And then even once it is warm enough, 80 degrees Fahrenheit or higher, the ocean surface temperatures, you have to develop deeper ocean heat content, and you have to kind of seed the lower part of the atmosphere. You have to have moisture in the atmosphere, high humidity values, get that dry air out of there. Things have to be what we call conditionally favorable for development. And by the time we get to September, as you can see over the past more than 100 years, and they hopefully will update this chart soon. Maybe I can volunteer to help them plot. Surely it's automated, but anyway, this goes to 2015. This is not our map. That's a NOAA Weather Service map. But you get the idea. It gets very, very busy, and there's a reason. There's a lag in the way that the summer and fall and the high sun angle, there's a lag. The sea surface temperatures get warm, and then there's a lag later on, and the atmosphere becomes conditionally favorable, and that's where we are. So this is, not unexpected in terms of what has happened the last few weeks. We had Fred, remember Fred? Barely. Henri, and what an interesting sort of antecedent event that Henri set up to be for what happened with the remnants of Ida yesterday up in the Northeast. And I'm going to talk about that more in just a moment, too. The impacts from Ida are far-reaching, as you well know. So this is what it looks like from a climatological perspective. We are in the most active part of the season now for the next several weeks, and so we have to stay on our toes and make sure we're ready, whatever that may mean for your personal situation. So what do we have? Anything to be ready out, to look out and be ready for now? Well, not much. We do have 91L over here making landfall, if you will, over Central America. Big rainmaker. They always produce rain, and as we saw with the remnants of Ida up in the tri-state area, rainfall is a hazard. All right, remember that. So not a big problem in terms of wind or surge or anything or future development, and this will continue to go in across the Bay of Campeche. Wouldn't surprise me if it becomes a short-lived tropical storm down around this area. It's the peak months of the hurricane season, or the peak weeks anyway, so why not? Wouldn't surprise me, but that's not going to change the impact, and the impact will be very heavy rain, and they mentioned that in the Outlook information. Then we have Hurricane Larry, well on its way to becoming a major hurricane. Eventually, this is going to be what's called an ACE producer, accumulated cyclone energy, scoring a lot of points in terms of how much energy it outputs, a scientific measurement of the hurricane season and the quality of the hurricanes and the storms, not just how many, but how strong were they. This is going to be a strong one and a long-lived event, and we'll take a look at this more in just a moment. Then another system moved off Africa and it has a 30% chance of development. Perhaps it's kind of close to Larry, so we'll see about that over time. So looking at the track here on our interactive tracking map from the HurricaneTrack Insider site, you get the big perspective here. Here's the west coast of Africa, the eastern parts of North America. There's Bermuda sitting in here, the islands. None of these areas, obviously Africa doesn't have to worry about it, but points west more than likely are not going to have to deal with direct impacts from Larry, because we're missing a big old connected area of high pressure out here that would steer it to the west. That is not there. So probably a little bit of a break out between the big old subtropical ridge sitting out here near the Azores Islands. We call it the Bermuda Azores High. And there's some troughiness over the northwest Atlantic, and that creates this alleyway for this to sneak out from or on, or the path, whatever. You get the idea. That's probably what will happen, but you never say never, right? One thing that it will do, especially in the longer range, this is the 5-day forecast. Let's just say it comes just a little bit more west and gets even closer to Bermuda, which is right there. In this zone through here, as it's very strong, it'll send out these waves that'll propagate towards the east coast and elsewhere, probably towards the north-facing beaches of the Caribbean islands and even up in Atlantic Canada. And you're going to get these big, big old swells coming in. So the surfers, you're going to love it. But again, I'm going to warn you, that can also be a hazard, all right? I need you on that other side of the screen there watching me, or I don't really have a purpose in the business sense of the thing. Right? Everybody wants to do something in life. This is what I do, for my career. And if you all die because you don't pay attention to what the weather is doing, it does me no good. So these swells that are going to come out, they're going to be a problem on one hand, and on the other hand, they're going to be a delight to the surfers. We'll talk about it more, trust me, but that's an impact. It's also something interesting. I'll probably go down to the beach at Wrightsville Beach with my kids to let them see it and enjoy it a little bit, but you have to be very, very careful. All right, looking at the satellite animation, courtesy of Tropical Tidbits. Late this afternoon, early evening, here's Larry. Well-defined outflow pattern out here. The Atlantic is just conditionally favorable. No real solid Madden-Julian oscillation coming through. In fact, there's a lot of sinking, drier air right now. Just not a lot of upward motion on a broad scale, but just generally speaking, this area is favorable. Just there's upward motion there. It's almost like the MJO is stuck there, but it's not really the MJO, the Madden-Julian oscillation. It's just favorable. In the western Atlantic, though, much more of a sinking pattern, upper tropospheric low pressure area here, upper level low as we call it. There's the disturbance 91L. Yes, it could percolate up just a little bit here as it crosses into the Bay of Campeche, but that is about it, and that's a good thing, because the remnants of Ida over here that really gave a terrible situation to our friends in the tri-state area. I'm not going to harp on it too darn much, because you probably, you're not here to get to have the riot act read to you, so to speak, but we really need to fundamentally change the way we perceive the weather in our society. That these viral videos, the big headlines, whatever you think, hurricane, and if it's category 3 or higher, I'm going to pay attention to it. If it's not, I won't. We got to stop thinking that way. We have to stop thinking in extremes and start thinking about, okay, all the headlines notwithstanding, what does this mean for me? So that's what I want you to do, is just take a moment and ask yourself, when it comes to any type of weather situation, winter storm, flash flood event, maybe a river flood, a hurricane, a tornado outbreak, the heat waves that we get, drought, any significant weather event other than just nice sunny days and 72 degrees like San Diego has. Outside of that, just a simple question to yourself. Okay, we see this event coming, whatever it might be. It's a headline maker. Now, let's calm things down a little bit. Let's dial it back. And I want you to say, what does this mean for me? And then you go on a mission to arm yourself with the education as to the answer to that question. And I will help you find those answers the best I can, at least when it comes to hurricanes especially. The hurricane local statements, reading the discussions from the National Hurricane Center, things like that. Understanding, it's almost selfish, but in this situation, that's good. I want you to think centrically. How will this affect me? And then from there, my family, my colleagues, my business partners, whatever, my neighbors, because then you become an expert and you can filter this down and spread it to other people. Something that you can spread to other people and nobody gets upset about it. This day and age, you got to be careful with what you say, right? But this is a good thing, knowledge, and help you to get ready, because what happened up here yesterday is terrible. And I feel awful that people died in their basements. They were stranded. We're so busy we don't understand. And no, I'm not going to be able to educate all 330 million Americans to understand the impacts like I do, but we can at least try. All right, so the tropics are going to give us a little bit of a break, some eye candy, if you will, to watch with Larry over the next few days. Again, the swells will eventually reach the North American coast and the islands of the Caribbean, and we'll talk about that more later. Vorticity for our systems, frontal system came off and interacted with the remnants of Ida. That's now up and impacting parts of Atlantic Canada, the Bay of Fundy, and vicinity. You know what? I'm going to go back to my tracking map real quick. I'm going to pop up our permanent cameras. All the ones down here, we need to take these off in Louisiana. These are Ida. But look right up here. This is up in Nova Scotia at Sluice Point. And let's just ad lib for a second while the hotel Wi-Fi gradually pulls up the feed. Come on. One of our followers from Twitter up there, social media as a whole, come on, hotel Wi-Fi, you kidding me? Let's try it one more time. I know it's going to pop up. Let's see if the one in Baiting Hollow pops up. Maybe it's just a nest issue. Okay, there it is from Long Island Sound. All right, Sluice Point, Nova Scotia, one more try. Well, they must be having connectivity issues up there. Isn't that just the way it works sometimes? I was going to just show you how this energy could be impacting Nova Scotia, but maybe they're having problems, so that's fine. Ruining my update. That's the internet for you. So let's move along, since that didn't work, and at least show you the future and why I don't think that Larry down here will be a big problem. First of all, there's the outline, at least in the lower levels of the atmosphere, of the subtropical ridge. There's a little bit of a chunk taken out of it there with some mid to upper level energy, but overall, these height lines are kind of like contour lines, and it's thickest through here. So Larry will generally move west to west-northwest, but where it thins out, in other words, this is not thick all the way out, so it's just this huge area of high pressure. It's thinner, like the pressure exerted on Larry to keep it down and moving west is not the same over here as it is to its south, right, to the south of this ridge. I'm getting into details here, but that's why it just goes up and around this. If everything was stationary, this is like a mountain, and this is like a valley, and this is like a water balloon in a stream. It's not a solid in a liquid, it's liquid in a liquid, if you follow me. And so it would just go around that ridge. Well, things change, and the ridge, the big high pressure area, changes its size, its orientation, and you can see that here in the Euro. 24 hours out, 48 hours out, and even at 48, that's a pretty big ridge, and it's keeping Larry kind of stuck down there. To the south is a very strong hurricane in the model. And you notice, too, there's nothing else in the Caribbean or the Gulf at 2 days out, thank goodness. 3 days out, 4, and then 5, 6, 7. We'll just go to 7 days, all right, just for fun, so to speak. Not threatening anybody. It's not one of these clickbait, oh, look at day 7, it's a Cat 5 over Miami. You can just see the general pattern. There's the big chunk of high pressure over here. It doesn't extend over the top to kind of trap Larry. So where's Larry going to go? Around that ridge. I didn't mean to take it through Newfoundland, but you get the idea. That should be what happens. We go back in time. You can see the evolution, even back into the past. Off it goes around that ridge. It's like a carousel. Whee, right? Like a big wheel. Seriously, that's kind of what it is. And when these ridges connect all the way across, or you get a big old ridge that comes out of Canada over the top, what we call the Newfoundland Wheel. Some people have coined that phrase over the decades of watching the weather. There's Newfoundland. You get this big high sitting up over Canada, strong anomalous high, and it drives these things in, and then they can hit Florida, or they can come up the East Coast. Not this time, it would appear. But if we go out to the 5-day point and stop there, powerful hurricane, it'll definitely generate those swells. So be ready for that. All right, I know I've mentioned it 3 or 4 times, but that's a hazard, and it's coming. All right, moving on out into other topics real quick. I continue to be amazed and a little concerned at the warmness to the entire Atlantic basin for the most part. Wow, just a little bit of anomalous cooling here, barely so in the Gulf. It's still plenty warm, but the western Atlantic especially, and the northwest Atlantic, very, very warm. The western parts of the main development region through here, and very importantly, the northeast Atlantic off of Morocco over here, and Spain and Portugal, the Iberian Peninsula. That is a big indicator of this warm AMO pattern, sort of this horseshoe pattern of warmness in the Atlantic. And then you couple that with this La Nina look, the abnormally cool Pacific, removing upward motion from the atmosphere here, less rising motion here, more rising motion here, and you have seen the results so far. And I mean, it's only the first part of September. Also, interesting, I've been watching this very closely. Hurricanes take heat kind of out of the oceans and redistribute it through the condensation process, which is a warming process. They take that latent heat, kind of chisel it out of the ocean here. You can see this cold wake left by Ida. And you say, well, Ida didn't do that. Well, that's true, but the circulation kind of mixed all this up like a big old spoon in there, just stirring it around. And it sent a lot of the warm water kind of westward, piling it up against the western Gulf, where you still have 30 and 31 Celsius very prevalent. Something to watch for. But these are actual sea surface temperatures, just so you know. And they did cool off just a little bit in the wake of Ida and because of Ida. And I also wanted to check and see, as we made a lot about that warm eddy. Remember that? The warm eddy, this was August 28th. Ida was going to move across this on the way into landfall and really intensify over that. And I showed it to you right after. Well, it did diminish a little bit. That's good. And you also notice some larger chunks, well, let me just show you, get taken out of the upper ocean heat content, but it's still pretty formidable overall. Make no mistake, the Gulf is plenty warm. There's just a little bit extra energy removed for the time being. It's still only September, the early part of September. We don't have fronts coming down into the Gulf, those big cold fronts. You know, that's what a cold front looks like, with cold air advection coming in on the backside, stirring everything up. That's not happening yet. So the Gulf could warm back up some, and you just got to keep you ready, that's all. All right, so before I let you go, I wanted you to see, what is this that I pulled up? Oh yeah, that was the master shot of all of the little graphics, these guys right here. Sorry, I'm tired. I wanted to show you this. I'm very proud of this, and we got a bigger following now on YouTube and Twitter. So I wanted to brag about this. This is a streaming series that I produced that's different from the Tracking the Hurricanes. We have a Tracking the Hurricanes documentary series going back to 2004. And then I started last year, 2020. I mean, what else was I going to do since there wasn't much to do in the spring except sit around? Seriously, I thought of this ahead of time. That just gave me a lot of time to do it. It's called The Hurricane Highway, and it is a retrospective on my career through flashbacks and interviews with people that helped to shape what I do, the early influencers on me. That's covered in episode 1 called The First Miles, that metaphorical hurricane highway. It's also very literal. And then we get into what we do in the off season, the next play after a certain season comes and goes. And in the first season of the Hurricane Highway, we're looking at the 2019 season in review by way of all of this sort of origin story. That's the first episode. And then all these flashbacks, you know, for example, in episode 3, when I'm out there for Hurricane Barry, I was in Louisiana in 2002 for Lily. I was down there for something else, you know, Isidore in 2002. You get the idea. And then we have our Herbie project. You know, we talked about this a lot. Right at landfall of Ida, we almost were able to launch that weather balloon into the eye in the daytime. Didn't happen. We're still trying. And that's what episode 4 is all about. And then episode 5 is Dorian from 2019. And then medium impacts, Imelda and Nestor. Imelda was actually a big impact for Houston and vicinity. Episode 7 was interesting sort of coastal storm in November that left me stuck in Rodanthe on the Outer Banks for about 5 days. And then we end season 1 with Typhoon Tisoi. I'll just give you a little bit of a preview here. This is Brent, our supporter from the Virgin Islands. There's me, doing my what's called talking head pieces. So it's very much like a documentary series, and it is crowdfunded through our Patreon that I talk about right here. So you see, there's much more to this than, oh, sign up, have a subscription, and watch my live video. Oh, no. There's a lot more. And these are the people that make it possible. So season 1 is available right now on YouTube as a playlist. I'll put the link to it in the description. Season 2 is in progress. I've got 3 episodes done. That focuses on the 2020 hurricane season. I got a long way to go. It'll get there. And then season 3, hard to think about, right? We'll cover this year's hurricane season. I do all of the editing, most of the interview work, and I compose the music and play it myself on synthesizers. And you might be thinking, what? Say that again? Well, watch episode 1 and you'll learn all about what that means, all right? So I just wanted to make sure you were aware of that. There's much more to what we do here at HurricaneTrack and the HurricaneTrack brand than just live streaming video. All right? There you go. Have you guys a great rest of your Thursday. Thanks for giving me a little bit of your time and attention. I do appreciate it. Great to have you along. If you're a new follower, please remember to like, subscribe, share, hit the notification button if you want the bell on there on YouTube to tell you when I've posted a video. Well, that's how you do it. You don't want to miss out, especially when we go live. That's some of the most unique coverage anywhere. Again, have a good rest of your evening. Thanks for watching. I'm Mark Sudduth. I'll have more for you tomorrow.